Hello, Robbie Wong here. So this is Temur Neoform combo. Let's start with the best possible hand, best fastest hand, with you need 2 blue and a green, and you cast Sea Gate Stormcaller, and this guy copies the next instant or sorcery. You throw down Neoform, copies by Sea Gate Stormcaller, and then you start this chain to go get Dualcaster Mage. Dualcaster Mage copies the Neoform, which means you can create an endless loop as long as you have Dualcaster Mages or clones. Clones can come in and copy the Dualcaster Mage. Then you finish the chain off. Once you get all of these, then you get to Combat Celebrant and Tuktuk and attack for a bunch. Couple of things here. Temur lands. This is the nuts. You have a little bit of interaction here. Fire Prophecy is great in this deck because after you cast it, you get to throw something back. A 5th land, a Tuktuk, a Combat Celebrant, something that's not supposed to be in your hand and needs to be in your library. The other card that does that is Valakut Awakening, and I love that this is the perfect combo card because you get to throw a bunch of cards from your hand back in. So after you hit 4 lands, there's some consideration on the battlefield to then sandbag them, so you can throw them into Vader's Fortress here. Anticipate and opt are cheap ways to keep digging through your deck, looking 3 cards deep or potentially 2 cards deep to look for your combo pieces. And Visionary and Wall of Blossoms are Neoform targets that can start the chain, and they also block and they cantrip, so that way you can dig through as much of your deck as possible. Very much a combo deck, very much is counting on your opponent's ability not to interact with you. If you cast Sea Gate Stormcaller and they remove it at instant speed, Neoform is not an instant, so you cannot react to the removal spell, and that will break up your chain. The other possibility is if they remove Tuktuk, everything comes in and is no longer haste. So there are some different ways to interact with that. We played against a blue-white control player who was playing a card that tapped all the creatures as they entered the battlefield. So then, guess what gets swept into the bin right after that? This deck is hilarious. It requires some mulliganing in terms of like, okay, do I have the nuts? How much of the combo do I have in hand? You can do some shenanigans with cloning your Visionary and your Wall of Blossoms to sort of turn these into cantrips. And then Glasspool Mimic also becomes a land in a pinch. Triome sometimes ends up in this category too because you get to cycle it and look for a card. And you can also Dualcaster Mage copy any instant or sorcery. So if your opponent plays something that you want, you can actually throw this down and make that work. There's only 3? Maybe there should be 4. There has to be 1 in the deck to start all of this. There has to be 1 in play. Sorry. 1 in play or 1 in the library when you start the combo to go off. If you haven't watched the games, then go watch the games if you don't want any spoilers. We got beaten up pretty bad on camera, and before we played, I played a lot off camera where we did a bunch of beating up on. So, thoughts on the deck: if you like combo, then this is a neat combo deck, trying to assemble the pieces as quick as possible. If you're really big into interaction, then this deck is, you've got 4 cards that interact and some creatures that can block. Outside of that, you're just digging for this as fast as possible. If your opponent is playing hand disruption, then you definitely want to fire this off as quick as possible. If your opponent is playing counter spells, try and play around that. If you go to different websites, they'll have sideboards if you want to play best of 3. I chose to play this as a best of 1, A, to kick off Thanksgiving break, but then B, I think these combo decks that are kind of only combo decks or mostly majority combo decks, I'm just going to play them in a best of 1 so I don't have to deal with too many sideboard cards. Alright, well, that'll do it for the deck tech and thoughts, and hope to catch you on the next video. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe.